Good morning. Welcome to everyone. I'm Dave Heist, Chair of the Indiana Arts Commission. I want to thank all of you for being here with us today in South Bend, and those of you who are joining us by Zoom as well. It's 9:03 a.m. on September 5, 2025. And so we will call the meeting to order for the Indiana Arts Commission's quarterly business meeting. First, I'd like to thank the South Bend Museum of Art for their hospitality yesterday evening. We had just a wonderful event that many of us were able to join in, and a number of folks locally as well, and really appreciate their hosting us last night. And then also want to thank our regional arts partner, the Community Foundation of St. Joseph County. And we want to allow their executive director, Rose, to provide a few words. Rose.
Thank you. Is it okay to have a front or just so I can see you? Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Rose Meisner. I'm president of the Community Foundation of St. Joseph County. We're a $340 million community foundation that focuses on improving the quality of life in St. Joseph County. So I've had the pleasure of being with the organization since its beginning in 1992. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here today. I just want to take 2 minutes to tell you a couple of things that I hope you'll find of interest. One is I was struck by Kayla mentioning that we've been the regional arts partner since 1999. So in 1999, I have to apologize, I'm not apologizing, but my parents were from Ireland. So this is just my disposition to think in terms of catastrophes across the So 1999, my kids would say, what were the 90s like? And I'd be like, oh, the 90s, you know, just stock market returns, pre-cell phone, smartphones. Oh, they were fabulous. But 1999, does anyone in the room remember 11/59, 1999? Holding our breaths a little bit, very anticlimactic. We waited a few minutes to see whether any nuclear arms accidentally launched. Remember Y2K? It's not that anymore. They didn't, so by 12:05, we were all good. But what followed then, of course, it was 9/11 in 2001. And actually, the Community Foundation tried to take the anxiety and the stress and the fear associated with the aftermath of 9/11 and do something for the arts. I mean, I honestly have to say, I felt like I was at a low point. And I was also struck by the fact that arts organizations, their endowments got hit. Their ticket revenue got hit. People didn't want to come out. And so the earth really shook in terms of our arts organizations, which, long story short, the Community Foundation launched our Arts Everywhere initiative. We raised millions of dollars to begin providing regular ongoing support to local arts organizations. And we've continued to build it and do that work too. It's a nice complement to the money from the Indiana Arts Commission that we get to distribute. So we've loved the partnership, and we've tried to do even more for the arts than what the state is permitting. So just a quick comment about that will end up landing in the building we're in here today. Aside from some of the doom and gloom I could talk about today, because these are very difficult and turbulent times, the state of the arts in this region and in St. Joseph County has never been stronger. It continues to just advance. And just if I think about physical settings, I just want to say, starting with Notre Dame with their brand new Racklin Murphy Museum of Art and their fabulous DeBarlo Performing Arts Center. I went to the Notre Dame in the 80s, and they were not an art school, I'll just say that. They've really done a 180. So beautiful museums, Performing Arts Center. They built a 2-mile path to connect the campus to the downtown. Psychologically, Notre Dame can feel a million miles away, but it's actually not a very long walk and it's an even shorter bike ride. So that's part of the foot traffic we're looking forward to downtown. Major expansion of the Morris Performing Arts Center, the South Bend Civic Theater, which is opening the August Wilson 7 guitars this evening. Crown jewel of the community. And I could go on in terms of how much investment we're doing in the arts, including an absolutely gorgeous Leighton Auditorium here in this library, which is not just an old-fashioned library auditorium, but it is very well lit, has beautiful sound, and we do lots of performing arts events there. So final note is just to say, if you haven't had a chance to walk through this library, take 5 minutes and take a look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And one of the lectures that I heard recently was trying to advise young people about how not to get replaced by artificial intelligence. And they said 3 things: curiosity, creativity, and connectedness. So the curiosity, what better contribution to those 3 essential features than the arts? So we want curiosity, we want creativity. That goes without saying. In this library, you can record music, you can create with technology and 3D printers, you can experience the arts, you can read literature, you can engage in storytelling. And then connectedness, which is the one I care most about, which is just how do we develop our ability to interact as human beings, to have empathy, to walk in shoes that we don't normally walk in, to make eye contact, to laugh together, to experience together. And I think the role of the arts is going to be more important than it's ever been. And we will continue to do all that we can to support the good work of the Commission and our local arts organizations. So welcome to South Bend and Maya. So 5 years from now, when you come back, before and after photos, the last thing that has to happen is that State Theater up there. That black is soul crushing, but as you can see, a lot of cranes, a lot of action going on there. When you come back next time, I'm not quite sure what it will be, but it'll be fabulous and we'll look forward to showing it to you. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Kaylee. And really appreciate the great work that Community Foundation has done as a regional arts partner for us. I also, before we go on, want to thank the Community Foundation and the Learning Center and the Public Library for allowing us to host. When I lived in South Bend years and years ago, there wasn't this facility, and it is certainly a gorgeous facility. And as Rose mentioned, just a lot of great connectedness in South Bend. You could really feel it when we got to town last night. So with that in mind, we're going to go to roll call. And we will ask Austin to provide the roll call.
To do so, we'll start with our commissioners present here in the room. Raina Bradley.
I am present.
Dave Heiss.
Here.
Greg Hall.
Present.
Daniel Martinez.
Here.
Jake Oakman.
Present.
Renee Thomas.
Here.
Scott Wiley.
Here.
That's everybody present in the room. Moving on to Zoom. Azizi Arrington Slocum.
Present.
Chad Bolzer.
Present.
Lori Burns McRobbie.
Present.
Kelsey Pieper.
Present.
That is all of our commissioners. Moving on to our IAC staff who are here. Jordan Adams.
Jordan Adams, Artist Services Program Manager.
Eric Ashby.
Eric Ashby, Director of Programs.
Connie Brom.
Connie Brom, Marketing and Communications Director.
Britt Beckman.
Britt Fechtman, Data and Grant Systems Manager.
Ann Johansson.
Ann Johansson, Community Services Manager.
Maya Michelson.
Maya Michaels, Executive Director.
Gwendolyn Pickett.
Gwendolyn Pickett, Communications Manager.
Andre Zangsanera.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jose City, Deputy Director and Chief of Staff.
And Stephanie Fendler is joining us on Zoom. Stephanie?
Good morning, Stephanie Fendler, Financial Operations Manager.
Moving on to our regional arts partners who are here. Kayla Myers.
Kayla Myers, Region 2.
Claire Rammel.
Here, Claire Rainwell.
That is all of our regional arts partners. Bryant, are you here? Here's Bryant right there. And is Dr. K on the Zoom?
Yes,
Uh,
I'm here.
Perfect.
Okay, Traditional Arts Indiana.
That is everyone, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Austin. We're going to move to item 2 on the agenda, the approval of the July 18th meeting minutes and today's agenda. The agenda you have before you has the call of order, the approval of the agenda, the consent agenda, the traditional Arts Indiana presentation, committee reports, both from the Committee of Future and the Program Grants and Services Committee. The Regional Arts Partnership Consortium report, the Commerce Vertical and Ready updates, the consent agenda items, if any, move forward, old business, and then lastly, adjournment. So with that in mind, we would request a motion to approve the agenda and the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Great. Thank you. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
We have to do roll call.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Austin.
Uh,
Wrong board. I have Austin to call for the roll. Thank you.
Raina.
Aye.
Dave.
Here.
Are you Greg.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Jake.
Yes.
Renee.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Azizi.
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Kelsey.
Aye.
That is everyone, and that is all in favor.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll next go to the consent agenda. The consent agenda items include items submitted for committee approval, the year-to-date financials for fiscal year 26. And then also reports, the Arts Trust report, the communication report, the staff activity report, comments of chair and committee assignments, calendar year 26 and 27 meeting calendar dates, external partnership update, strengthen and innovate report, and commissioner policy handbook redevelopment. So just to remind everyone, those on Zoom and those in the room all have the ability to vote. If anyone would want to take one of these items off for discussion, we can move it to the end of the meeting. So first off, are there any items that any commissioner would like to remove from the consent agenda for further discussion? Okay, hearing none, then we would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Scott. A second.
Second.
Thanks, Jay. Second. David, roll call. Austin.
Raina.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Jake.
Aye.
Renee.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Azizi.
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Kelsey.
Aye.
That is everyone, and they're all in favor.
Great. Thank you, Austin. All right. Appreciate everyone's support of the consent agenda items. We'll move to item 4, the Traditional Arts Indiana presentation by Dr. John Kay and Brian.
John, we'll hand it over to you.
That's great. First of all, I want to apologize for not being able to be with you all today. It was just after early semester meetings and things. It's sometimes hard to get away from campus in a timely way. But I'm thankful that we have Bryant there with you. What I'm wanted to highlight today is that Traditional Arts Indiana is finally ready to, has announced actually that we have our apprenticeship pairs for the current year, and we want to share some videos that we made from an apprenticeship team from last year's. And I'll let Bryant introduce those. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about the apprenticeships that we have this year. We have Brian Allen, who was featured with the Library of Congress Kennedy Center concerts a few years back during the pandemic. Brian Allen played with Mike Cleveland, who's a National Heritage Fellow, but also a state Governor's Arts Award recipient. Brian Allen is a guitar player, plays bluegrass guitar down in Scott County, and he's working with Kendra Kodal to pass on that kind of very distinctive Southern Indiana bluegrass guitar playing that happens down there. We also have Dan DeYoung working with his son, Joshua DeYoung. Dan does a lot of restoration, very intricate restoration, fretwork, and kind of a lot of the artistry for historic homes, which of course he's down in the New Harmony area. And he does a lot of the very precise work that needs to happen down there. We're also working with Danny Tipman again. Danny is a recipient of an Indiana Heritage Fellowship. She's also was a Taproot Fellow, very prestigious art fellowship that she received. She's a member of the Miami tribe of Oklahoma, although she's lived her entire life here in Indiana. She's a descendant of Miami who have always lived in northern Indiana. And she's working with Ingrid and Cecilia and Lucy Nicholson to pass on traditional Miami plant knowledge and specifically teaching arc basketry to them. We also have another Indiana Heritage Fellow award, her first time in the program, Dolores D. Neerman. She was featured in a documentary a couple years ago called Weaving Indiana. When I created this program several years ago, Danny Tipman, or not Danny Tipman, Dee Neerman was one of the people I had in mind when we created this. Someone who was in her 80s, didn't have anyone to pass this knowledge on to, and she works on the same loom that her great grandmother works on in Jackson County, Indiana. Just a real treasure of a tradition, and she's working with a second cousin, Rochelle Covener, and really excited that that's happening. When Dee finishes her time here on Earth, she's already said that her loom that's been in her family for all these generations will go to her, and we're so thankful we've been able to help facilitate that happen. We're also working with Master Ka. Master Ka is Chinese American, has lived in the Indianapolis area. He's founded and is the longtime director of the Indianapolis Chinese Orchestra, and he's working with Jake Copas to pass on some of his knowledge to him, Jacob Copas. And our final one from this current year is Yuri Hart Santos, who is a mestre of Capoeira Angola. He actually, when we were first coming up with a model for apprenticeship programs, he actually did an apprenticeship with us back maybe 10 years before we actually had the program that we direct now. And so I'm really excited about this cohort. I think Bryant is going to tell you about some of the other apprenticeship teams that we've been working with. A couple of years ago now, Maya met with me and basically said, we'd like to have some kind of non-traditional arts. And so I had met Bryant when I was working with him on one of the Governor's Arts Awards videos. And we kind of hit it off, and I reached out to him so that we could try to find some some great stories to tell about traditional arts as everyday expressive practices that pass from person to person within communities. To find those perhaps up in the Fort Wayne area that would not be hoop net making and rag rug weaving, but actually something a little different. So I'm going to stop talking because I've already talked longer than I intended to on Zoom. But I'll pass it off to Bryant at this time. Hopefully he's got the video queued up for y'all.
Well, I don't have it. Somebody else does, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, my name is Bryant Rozier. I was the director producer of the 2023 Governor's Arts Awards documentary series. Just kind of some old business related to those. 4 of the 6 shorts have been screened in some film festival throughout the state. 2 in Indy and 1 in Fort Wayne. Brian, Dee, and Sean and Jim Smoke was actually screened last week at the River Bend Film Festival in Goshen. On June 3rd of last year, the full 40-minute doc was screened on our local PBS channel 31-1 in Fort Wayne. And also, throughout the next month, the shorts were, fit, they put the shorts in whenever they needed, 5 minutes here, 7 minutes here. And as of March 31st of this year, the main doc was accepted as a donation by the IU Board of Trustees into the Black Film Center and Archive Program. The IAC retains the copyrights, but what happens is they're reaching out to Black filmmakers. You have a film, we'll archive it for you, et cetera, et cetera. So that, again, as of March this year, that was accepted. As Jim said, I was honored to produce the 3 short docs. I was very glad that they were in Fort Wayne. So I was like, hey, 10-minute drive is great for me. And obviously with traditional arts, you're dealing with community and tradition, which are 2 important things for me. But I also gravitated, me being me, I gravitated for the idea of craft. For the low writing documentary, which you'll see, I focused on the importance of craft and how community and tradition support craft, right? So you're looking at a low writing documentary, a car hopping documentary, you're putting tens of thousands of dollars into a vehicle and you're having to practice on that vehicle. So inevitably something can happen where you see a little small accident where it's like, well, we broke a light, or our car can actually catch on fire. Like, I'm not exaggerating, that actually can happen. But no, so the idea of craft being really important to the car hopping community and how it's just passed down from person to person, friend to friend. There isn't schools for this, like when they break apart, they have to go to somebody in Kentucky and be like, hey, I met you from a friend who knows you from a cousin. Can you help me with this thing that doesn't exist anywhere? And yeah, no problem. We got you. That's so the idea of craft being really important was something that I kind of, what you'll see was, something that I kind of gravitated to the most. The other 2 documentaries, we have the second one about local DJs in Fort Wayne, and that one was really important to me because like half of my friends are DJs, but it's just the idea that again, it's something that you can't learn anywhere. You can't go to like a school to learn DJs, but the idea that like craft, the way it is now in 2025, has made the community and tradition aspects of it more personal. You don't have to you don't have to, but you can learn stuff online, but it's better to definitely learn with the community. But everybody, it's music, everybody has personal experiences. That second doc is finished John gave me some notes. So that's what I'll be doing this weekend is kind of implementing those notes. So that'll be done soon and I'll send that to you guys. And the third one is pinata making, which is, again, kind of a local connection for me. It's on Fairfield Avenue, Random Brighton, those driven past it a bunch of times. And we're going to start that soon. So again, back to the low writing documentary. Sherwin is our master artist and Angie is our apprentice.
And then at the same time, what helps me also hold the top of your steering wheel, keep your steering wheel straight, and it also gives you a base to hold on to. So this arm's just not, everything plays a part with the hopping, the way your body rocks back and forth.
My goal at the 6th annual Hotspot fundraiser is for me to hit my switch and hop Big Sexy. Big Sexy was built, she wasn't bought. I would say there's 5 people who were involved at different parts of what Big Sexy is. So I go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up.
You gotta catch a rhythm.
Now, if I want to get more height,
If you were a double pump, then both of these will be running the front at the same time.
ooh,
That's where you get up out.
the level I'm at right now, is this a good level?
No, don't start all over again.
Like, if I didn't know you guys, I would have to pay somebody. There is no shop or garage.
Better. I had a lot of people show me things along the way too. Marcus, Juan, Johnny, Alex. We had to start from old parts that were laying around. We even had to use extension cords off old TV. I like teaching people stuff. You still gotta kind of have like a mechanical mind to even understand any of this, so.
I don't like when people try to say that because I'm a female, that I don't understand the importance of what the culture represents. That's what the importance of you training me means. I didn't hop that high, so I was kind of disappointed in myself and my mind. I had this brain picture I was gonna be, like 30 feet off the ground. And I had all these different guys at the beginning that were shouting in the car, hey, do this, hey, do that, do this.
Or in the future, block out all the noise, focus on the switch.
Took her the very next day to an event for special needs kids, and I hopped there, and I actually did better, I feel, that day because I didn't have all the voices in my head, all these people just shouting at me.
I was proud of you.
And I also forgot to mention, I worked with Hillary Heredia. She is Angie's niece, and she was kind of young in her journey herself as a filmmaker. She used to doing like quinceañeras, but had never done anything like this. So like that was, in a way, I was kind of like, her mentor, even though like she saved my butt plenty of times. She's an amazing artist herself, but yeah. Any questions?
Questions for Brian and John?
Did you find it, I assume you're already connected to a lot of those communities, Brian.
Yeah.
You're very welcoming of being documented in that way and having
Yeah.
that culture dated.
Yeah, that was, when you saw the festival, they were actually having this year's festival. It wasn't August last year. It's actually going to be in October. But yeah, they're actually used to filming themselves. So they're like, the drone footage and the kind of the wide shots in the dock I got from another cinematographer that neighborhood in that community. And there's a bunch of them. Everybody has cameras, everybody's filming things. So they were very open to even just me sitting down, just talking, like, tell me about this world that I know anything about. And I would sit there and just for hours, just take notes and just like, tell me everything. And they have so many stories to tell. But yeah, they were very welcoming to the community, to myself.
Awesome. And then I guess I also wonder if they were welcoming or more interested after engaging with you and John in like the state commission's work, you know what I mean? Or how we can support them further, or were they more just focused on?
No, that's the thing. I haven't approached the third set yet, but the first and second, they didn't know the Indiana Arts Commission was even around.
Right.
Or even what you guys could do. So this is actually opening their eyes. And I'm going to actually hook up with Angie for the October event, see if we can do some kind of screening. And, if you guys can provide some information, some literature for me that I can print off, just hand out to people, because, this is definitely, these communities are so embedded and so insulated in what they do, they kind of, you know, they take care of each other. They don't really think about like, oh, how can the wider community or even the state help us?
Thank you.
So huge shout out to Brian for the work, for sure. And this is just the beginning, I think, of where this could take us. And so thankful to you, Brian, and also to John, you for helping connect and provide the opportunity for Brian to do this. This is what we had talked about when we hope to make the apprenticeship program feel more real. The folks around the state, and Brian, so appreciate your efforts again in connecting folks to the work that we do. And we'll talk more as the other videos are done about how we're going to distribute this and share it around the state, because these videos need a lot more eyes on them because we have missing. So this was what we had hoped for when we started this conversation a couple years ago. So yeah, Brian, thank you so much for your work. And yeah, we're excited to see where this takes us.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for being here. I also appreciate understanding what traditional, non-traditional, traditional are.
Yeah.
So that was good. Thanks very much. We're going to move to committee reports and committee of the future. Eric.
Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna stand back here so I'm in view of the thing. And I'll walk through some key performance indicators from our strategic framework. So just as a reminder, we've got our 2024-2028 strategic framework, and accompanying that are key performance indicators that help give us an indication of how we're performing towards the impact we're hoping to achieve in that framework. And so I'm going to walk through an update with new targets and new baselines. And so when we first came to you with this information, we had baselines that were as of that current year when we started the strategic framework, and we presented targets that we hope to reach by the end of fiscal year 25. We ended fiscal year 25 this past summer, and we're in a new one. And so where we landed at the end of fiscal year 25 becomes our new baseline, our new mountaintop. We're going to try to go to another new mountaintop now over the next fiscal year. So that's what this is going to walk through today. So our first impact is around access, that in every Indiana county, people and communities have access to arts experiences. The three metrics that we're looking at here, one is counties directly supported. And you can see there in FY24, we had 81, and then in FY25, we had 77. And this is a little deceiving because over the course of the calendar year, we actually had direct investment in all 92 counties. So the fiscal year timing doesn't always have 92, but the calendar year will when we cross into two different fiscal years. And so we want to maintain that effort here in FY26 and reach 92 counties again. And a big piece of that is through our Every County Funded program, which you'll be hearing more about in coming QBMs. I'm really happy to have Ann on board to really help champion reaching every county. Additionally, we're looking at the activities in counties as a measure of access, and this is mainly through AOS and APS. In FY24, we averaged 7 arts activities per county, and in 25, that increased to 11. And that exceeded our FY25 target that we had set of 8. And so we want to continue to see that go up, and looking to have 15 arts activities per county in FY26. That last metric there around accessibility focused projects, this was initially built in when we had planned to do some partnership grants with Indiana Humanities. That's paused indefinitely, so that's to be determined if that returns or not. And so we'll also be looking at some other indicators around access here as we look at people participating in creative convergence and some of the downstream impacts of that program, as well as people participating in trainings and other opportunities that we may have. Impact 2 is around new populations experiencing meaningful learning and engagement with arts and creativity. One of the things related to new populations, looking at first-time grantees, and we've historically looked at that in just AOS and APS. And for FY26, we're going to be looking to extend that data tracking across all programs. That'll be a field that we'll have for any application. And In FY 24, for just AOS and APS, we had about 150 first-time grantees between the two programs combined. That was about 28% of the pool. In FY 25, it was very similar, representing about 26% of the pool, which was a little below what we had hoped to achieve in FY 25, which was 35%. So we're recalibrating that metric a little bit. And again, we'll be asking this across the program. So it's going to go up because we're going to have that data tracked across more grant programs. So we'd love to see 30% new first-time grantees in FY 26. And then we're also looking at grantees, number of grantees, and total grant dollars by type and discipline. And I'll talk about what that means here. These are primary disciplines that are prescribed by the National Endowment for the Arts. So these are not categories that we choose. And this breakdown of grantees is for FY 25. You can see these are the percentage of grant dollars that went to these disciplines. And the ones that are tall there are music and theater and multidisciplinary. And those are typically in visual arts. Those are typically the four that we see as the highest percentage, and that has tracked for a number of fiscal years. And I will make a note that multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, we have discussions in the committees as to what exactly the difference is between those two. And Jordan gave a much clearer definition than I'll be able to give, but it's a lot of times the people that select multidisciplinary are organizations that they just know they do more than one art form. And so they just say, well, we do multiple things, so multidisciplinary. So we usually see a fairly inflated metric there, whether or not by the NEA's definition that is accurate or not. So just a note on the accuracy there. So when we're looking at this breakdown of disciplines, what we looked at, our target was in FY 25 was to maintain a mixture of disciplines. We don't want to fund a single discipline. And we're looking at our sort of benchmark for that mixture of disciplines is based on our peer states with a similar budget range. And wanting to maintain sort of on track with what our peer states are doing. And so that's what this breakdown looks like. That first column is the peer states, and the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies provides us this information, and they group those disciplines into 4 categories. And as you can see in FY 24, the middle column, we mirrored pretty closely to our peer states. And again, that is the case in FY 25. And so we want to make sure we're investing in a variety of disciplines. And one of the ways that we make sure we do that is by spending time in communities, just like we did here in South Bend, spending time with organizations and making sure we're building those relationships across a variety of different types of organizations. And the last piece of the same impact around new populations of Hoosiers experiencing learning and engagement is around who's benefiting from programming. And one of the key components of this is our geographic reach. And in FY 24, we have about a quarter of the grants going to rural counties and a little over 20% of the dollars going to rural counties. That increased on both fronts in FY 25, and we had almost 30% of the grants going to rural counties, which is what we were hoping to see happen, and almost 30% of grant dollars going to rural counties, which exceeded what our goal was for FY 25. And so as we head into FY 26, we're looking to kind of maintain what we did in FY 25 with a slight increase in the grant dollars going to rural counties. And this is a key piece of providing access and reaching new populations with creativity opportunities. Here you can see that breaks down this metric over time. The blue bar is the number of grants. The green line is the dollars and cents invested. And that little dotted line that's slowly sloping up is in relationship to the blue bars. And so you can see that the number of grants going to rural counties has increased steadily since FY 18. That big jump in FY 21 and 22 is COVID dollars. So take that with a grain of salt. And we can see the dollar investment has certainly increased since FY 23. So we've made a concerted effort to make sure we're serving the whole state. Impact 3 is artists building toward successful careers in our state. One of the things we're looking at here is dollars invested in individual artists. In FY 24, we had $186,000 in individual artist programming. FY 25, that went down a little bit and was a little different from our target. And a piece of this is the timing of when some of our new programming is launching, paired with not having as many programs in the creative aging space and in the arts education space, both of which primarily granted to individual artists. And so without those programs running in FY 25, that number looks a little different, but we will be on track for FY 26 to see that $200,000 investment in individual artists. And one of the things we're looking at to also support on the individual artist career side is investment in artist entrepreneurship from IAC partners. And I'm really happy to have Hannah in the room with the Small Business Development Centers. We've been working closely with our friends at IEDC and Small Business Development Centers to continue to provide resources and access to business training and other things for artists. And Jordan's been leading that work wonderfully. And so we hope that over the fiscal year, we're able to build some partnerships there that attract some investment in artists. And then lastly, we're looking at technical assistance. And this is something that's not necessarily on the front page of our website, but it's something we do often, which is provide individual consultation to the arts organization, artists, career coaching, referrals. This is something we do a lot, and we've been working on tracking that to really understand what are the topics that people are asking and how much time are we spending in that space. And we found out we are spending a lot of time doing that. One of the things that we saw in FY 25 was a little over 150 hours, which is very much so underreported. We're probably closer a little over 200 with some staff transition. There are a couple months there that were missed in terms of reporting. So one of the things we're going to track very closely in FY 26 are those technical assistance hours. And that's something we're going to continue to lean into, especially as our grant budget is not the size that it once was. So we want to definitely see that 250 hour mark. I think we'll meet and exceed that. Impact 4 is that art providers have expanded opportunities to enhance the quality of life in their community. And one of the things we're looking at here is there's dollars left on the grant award. So one of the things we hear often is that getting funding from the Indiana Arts Commission is something that organizations can take and go to other funders, other donors, and leverage the Arts Commission support to attract additional investment. And so we've seen that hold steady between fiscal year 24 and 25, a little over $3 million in both years. And so that was a little below our 3.5 million target, but we're hoping to get there in FY 26, which I imagine we will, in part because the grant dollars are, the amount of money we're giving is not as much in previous years. So the amount that will be leveraged will probably be more. So that's a key thing we look at to help arts providers expand their opportunities. We're also looking at sustained creative aging projects. This really came out of our lifelong arts for arts organization work, where we train arts organizations on creative aging. And one of the goals with that program is that some of that work would stick and become a more permanent facet of arts organizations' programming arms. And some of it did for certain organizations. There are around 5 or so that at least indicated in their final reports that that was something they're going to stick around and do. And that was certainly below what we had hoped would be the sticking point for some of that work. But as we head into FY 26, we recalibrated that to try to have a little bit more realistic figure on what that might look like, especially given that the Lifelong Art Program doesn't have the size of investment that we had in previous fiscal years. So we're looking to see that number there. And we do have some arts and health funding from the National Endowment for the Arts that we will be putting toward creative aging. And you'll hear more about that in December. But this is, we're hoping to see some of that creative aging continue to be seeded and stick around across the state. And then lastly, the Universal Health Survey. This is also with creative aging and related to improving quality of life, specifically for older adults. We wanted to see statistically significant improvements in physical and mental health. And that is something that we did see, particularly in the mental health domain, for adults that were participating in the creative aging programming did see statistically significant improvements in their mental health. And so that is a metric that is completed, it's done. So you won't see that after today, since that was sort of more of a completion piece. So yay, that's done. We will come back to you in December or March with some updated metrics here, since that is more of a completion one. Talk about how we are helping expand opportunities to enhance quality of life. And some of that would certainly look like webinars and training opportunities that people have to learn about how they can use the art to improve quality of life. And then lastly, broad recognition of arts and creativity's value for Indiana. One of the things that we look at here is who else is investing in arts and creativity outside of the IAC. That's certainly an indicator of recognition. And in FY 25, we saw that at about 1.5 million. which is from the Lilly Endowment's investment that has gone out for cultural planning across the state. And Maya will talk a little more about that later. And then we're hoping to see a $25 million, at least $25 million investment over FY26 as that project portal opens for people to submit applications to the Ready Work. And that's also as maybe some other funders across the state invest in arts and culture. So that's what we're looking at for FY26. And then another thing for broad recognition is who are the non-arts and artist grantees that are embedding arts and culture in the work they do. So this might be social service organizations, community centers, schools. And this is a big piece of who we serve. And in FY24, we had 119 non-artist or arts grantees in FY25 that increased to 148, which was a little below the target we'd hoped. So we're sort of recalibrating based on the grant dollars we have available this year and what we expect to do. So it'll be around 150, but that's a really encouraging sign that there are a lot of organizations across the state that are embracing arts and culture as a piece of their mission that can help them achieve the impacts they want to see in communities. And then lastly is the per capita funding, and this is determined by looking at our state appropriation from the General Assembly divided by the population in Indiana. And in FY24, that was 76 cents per person, and in 26-27 with our budget decrease, that's down to 50 cents per person. Which nationally puts us in the bottom quarter of states. And this data is available through the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, which tracks this across the nation. So hopefully in years to come, we see some improvement there. But this is the last time. So welcome any questions, comments on the KPIs.
I'll provide a comment. I want to thank Eric and the rest of the commission team. It's been just amazing to watch first the development of these KPIs and then now having your work a couple of years in. Really provided some really strong for what we're doing. So really commend the work that you guys do. Thank you. Okay. All right, we will move then to fiscal year 25 AOS APS final grant report analysis. And then I guess it's Brett.
It's my turn now.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Brett.
Happy to be here. So this data that you're about to see is coming from the FY25 arts operations support and arts project support final grant report analyses that we pulled in July. So just to give you some context, arts project support grantees that were supported in FY24 were at 190. FY25 APS grantees were at 325. Arts organization support, FY24 AOS grantees were 208. FY25 AOS grantees were 213, and I included the regional arts partners AOS data here. I think that was also included in FY24, but I did not pull that data, so I did not include that note. And then as far as combined FY25 AOS and APS adult participation goes, we saw 2.2 million adults at the programs that were supported with that funding. And for youth participation, it was around 500,000 children that were present. Okay, so breaking down the percentage of projects, for this, you're not seeing 100% here because they included data for all of the age groups represented at their programs. And so we saw the highest percentage of participants were in the adult category, but we had a high percentage of older adults, which is great. And that shows a lot of the creative aging work that has been going on for a lot of our organizations. A pretty high amount of young adults, I would say, as a previous librarian, it's very hard to get young adults to come to programs. So I love to see almost 25% of young adults participating and children and youth at 45%. And then the no single age group is just organizations choosing that it was a pretty equal representation of all ages. And some participants would notate that no single age group made up more than 25%, but also had a 25% selected somewhere. So I did not include that data because that was null. As far as distinct groups, this is self-selected by the organization. And so we saw the highest being no single distinct group listed above making more than 25%, with individuals below the poverty line making a pretty high percentage at 27%, individuals with disabilities at 15%, youth at risk 12%, individuals with limited English 5%, military veterans, active duty personnel 4%, and individuals in institution at 1%. And Eric, do you want to speak on what individuals and institutions?
Yeah, and I don't know, these categories are also from our friends at the National Endowment for the Arts. They're not, it's a challenging data point to collect because the question that we're required to ask is, do 25% or more of the participants belong to X, Y, Z group? So people may be serving some of these groups, but unless they meet the 25% or more of the direct participants, they're not going to select one of these. So it's a little bit inaccurate, and I'm actually happy to say the NEA is getting rid of this question, and so it will allow us in the future to ask a more a little bit better phrased and structured question to get some more accurate data here. But the individuals and institutions line, institutions is referring to people that live or are in long-term care in hospitals, assisted living facilities, correctional facilities are the three main categories that are within that group.
Okay, so the primary grant impact, these questions actually come from our strategic action plan. So we put these in here for our organizations to hopefully show that they're meeting some of our organization goals. The largest that we see is a want to increase access to arts experience, being 56%, with a pretty large percentage of projects trying to improve quality of life in the community and reach new populations of Hoosiers in arts and creativity. Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of these projects wanting to support artists' careers in Indiana. However, that is a huge component of Jordan's work, and so you'll learn soon about all of the amazing things that she is doing in Indiana to help support our individual artists, and then other being at 6%. So here are those age groups for just FY25 grant reports. Again, the highest percentage of attendees being adults, children and youth and older adults making up a huge percentage of participants. Still a pretty high amount of young adults, and then no single age group at 7%.
Can I make one note on the you'll see in project support and in operating support that 19 to 24 is pretty low across both programs. And that's something that we've noticed for years, especially in the operating support, that arts organizations do a great job of serving adults and children. And then people 19 to 24 is a real challenge point. And we've heard that from a number of organizations as well. So I'll just highlight that data point is consistent with what we've seen over a number of years.
I have a quick question for Eric and Britt McKenna.
Yeah.
Are the spans here also determined by the NEA or outside, or are we?
These are National Endowment for the Arts questions this time.
And are these ones staying, Eric?
You know, I think these are also, this is also going to go as well. They've been overhauling some of their final reporting and actually earlier this year public comment on new reporting questions that they might implement for state arts agencies. So I expect to see a whole host of a revised reporting structure coming from the NEA in future years of our partnership. That I think is good news, because I think this data, the way the questions are structured, this is another question that you can only check one of those groups if 25% or more of your participants were in such and such an age group. And so again, you're missing some of the nuance in who people are serving, the way that these questions are phrased. And it's also just confusing for people. It's just hard to grasp what that means. So yeah, I'm looking forward to a time when we can ask a slightly different question and have a more nuanced conversation.
Any other questions about this? And then here is the AOS breakdown of those strategic framework impacts. And for our art organizations, we have a huge amount of programs or just organization support that is put towards increasing access to arts experiences in their community and improving quality of life in their community. With 10% still wanting to reach new populations of users with arts and creativity, 7% to support artist careers in Indiana, and 2% of organizations with goals to support other things that are not represented here. Any questions about this? So with our arts organization support grants, they can use that money to support their organization in a number of ways. And so we try to get some sort of an idea of where most of those organizations are really putting those funds in. And so we have a few categories that we've selected for them to choose. And it's again, not 100% because they put money in any of these categories. And so this is just to give you an idea of where that money is going across the board. And so a large percent of organizations are putting those funds into their administrative support, contracted expertise, stipends and honoraria for artists that they may bring in or for their staff. With 53% of funds from organizations going to their facilities, their rent, utilities, accessibility needs, mortgage, and other facility costs. 49% of organizations are putting funds into salaries, and 41% of that money is going into programming supplies, 40% into marketing, and then 8% into other. Any questions about these categories? Okay, that's all from me.
Great. Thank you, Brett. Much appreciated. Maya's going to give us a report on the National Endowment.
I'm just gonna briefly give you an update, I'm just gonna repeat what Dave just said, I'm just gonna give you. What's up with the NEA? We just heard quite a bit about that, requirements, and so what's happening? Just brief, here's where we are right now. A lot of changes that have happened so far, early in this calendar year. I'm happy to say that at the moment, the situation seems to have stabilized as it relates to what's going on at the agency itself, which is great news for us. I say that, and then I immediately contradict myself by saying that the federal fiscal year 26 funding forecast yet is not quite clear as of this moment. At present, funding scenarios could range anywhere from a 35% reduction. Again, this is what's been proposed by both bodies, legislative bodies on the federal level. 35% reduction by the House, and then in the House to level funding in the Senate. The National Advocacy Organization, Americans for the Arts, is very busy communicating, doing strategic communications to relevant legislators on both sides to obviously to communicate the value of the arts and so forth. So too early to say how that's going to play out. Our fiscal year, federal fiscal year 26 state partnership application guidelines have been released, so that's a good sign, promising. And our application to the NEA is due September 25th of this year. So staff is right now working to pull that together. It's a really super burdensome process, so we're pleased about that. But we try to be overachievers if possible. We're going to try to beat the deadline. We're trying to get it submitted at least a week ahead of time if we can do it. Just takes one more thing off our plate. Couple of notes though that we are already seeing in the guidelines as it relates to what funding might be available to us. The America 250 program, which you will hear shortly after the break from Eric about, those funds will not be offered. We know that program will not be repeating for the next federal fiscal year. But the arts and health funding, which you will probably be hearing from us about in December, will be available. It is competitive funding, and at the moment we intend to seek that. We were obviously successful this time around. We'll hear more about that in December, but we will be planning to go for that. For folks who might be interested in staying up to date with what might be going on in the federal funding environment, I encourage folks to go check out americansforthearts.org. They have the Arts Advocacy Network, the newsletter, and stay up to date. They're also, if folks choose to take action, they provide you ample opportunities in which to do that. So I would encourage you, if you are interested, to stay connected with Americans for the Arts. Any questions about the NEA?
One quick question. When it comes to the Senate's recommendation for level funding.
Yes.
Is that a level funding value or a level funding number? Like, are they?
Great question. Level funding number.
Okay.
Yeah. And just fun fact, the NEA's enabling legislation requires that 40% of its budget get passed through the state or state. And so that is a long time relationship, and obviously an expectation of that almost half the fund with records. Any other questions about the NEA?
Yeah, just real
Yeah,
quickly,
yeah.
but federal fiscal year 26 starts July 1.
That's correct. Yes, yeah.
Probably was first.
Yeah, oh, that's right, yeah, federal, yeah, absolutely.
October first.
October
first, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a federal.
Yeah. We received those funds to coincide with our, right?
Sure.
So,
Gotcha.
and that's, yeah. We got a few states, fun fact, also, who run on the federal fiscal year, which is what makes things interesting for them, but, so there's also potential for a federal shutdown and coming in the fall, so that will not impact the current federal award that we have. Those funds they are made available to us, and I won't go into the arcane and work that the state of Indiana's budget agency does related to front loading our federal funds availability, but I'll say we have access to all those funds regardless of what happens. Shutdown occurs. So that's great. Any other NEA questions? I will say that I should have teed this up before John and Bryant's presentation earlier. Traditional Arts Indiana, just as a quick reminder, is a partnership that we do with Indiana University to help. TAI is our folk life partner in the state, and our federal funds come to us earmarked in sort of 4 different buckets. First, our basic arts plan, which is the bulk of the funds we receive from the NEA, and then we get it is allocated in 3 additional buckets: arts education, funds that go directly to support arts education efforts, underserved audiences that go to serve generally our regional arts partners work related to engaging with underserved audiences, and then folk life. And so every state arts agency is required to provide some sort of folk life services to the state. And TAI, since the 90s, we're talking about the 90s today, have been our state folk life partner, and that partnership with the university has been grateful. Pretty unique in the country. I think we're the only state art agency that has this kind of relationship with the state. With its university, one of the universities for us. So, apologies, should have done a bit of a table set before John and Brian talked, but just want to give you some additional. So, another one of those requirements that the NEA provides to us in addition to all that good stuff. All right, anything else? NEA. We're going to go ahead and do one more data presentation, and then we're going to take a break after that. So I'm going to hand it over to Eric.
Thank you, Brian.
I will be brief so we can get to this break. One of the things that we looked at this year is our application review data. And when I say application review, this is our adjudication process for reviewers getting in the system, scoring, leaving comments on our applications. And this is a core piece of how we make decisions around where our funding goes as a public agency. And we made some changes to the review process and both project support and operating support. And one of the key questions we wanted to gain some discernment around in our operating support program in particular is what is the impact of the panel process? How does getting together on the Zoom meeting and talking about our reviews together impact the scoring and the outcomes that we're seeing from that adjudication process. And so one of the things that we're driving toward as we evaluate these things is trying to get an agency framework for application review. One is the internal review, one is the internal with a couple outside experts, trying to figure out which type of review structure looks best for which programs and what sort of outcome comes from the different structures. And so we're just scratching the surface of exploring some of this data, but just as a quick reminder of what our operating, when I'm just going to talk about operating support for this piece. What our operating support review included a panel of 4 to 6 reviewers who scored and left comments on a set of 12 to 20 applications, and then they were convened to discuss those reviews. And their scoring options were from a 1 to a 4, 1 being no, you didn't meet the criteria, to 4 being an exemplary response. And that is a change from what we have historically done in the operating support program, where we offer a much wider 1 to 25 range, which was a much more confusing range for reviewers to try and discern. Differentiate how they would maybe score between a 20 and a 23, for example. And then lastly, the panels were not recorded this year. They're not available to view on YouTube. So the first step that we did in looking at some of this is compare the pre to post scores. So we pulled all of the scores before everyone gathered on Zoom and then pulled them after they were done and looked at if the scores were really changing as a result of the discussion with their fellow reviewers. And they weren't, at least as it related to the average for the entire panel. So when we averaged the average score across all 4 reviewers, 6 reviewers for the panel, those averages for the panel were staying the same pre to post. So that was the first level of analysis. Where we're going to need to go now with the additional analysis is looking, there were shifts. People did change their scores, and sometimes they were big. And sometimes what would happen is you'd have offsetting changes. So somebody would go way up and somebody would go way down, and then the average stays the same because they almost like flip-flopped places. So you've got the same distribution of numbers, but people did change their scores. There's a little bit more, there's some hidden numbers in there that we need to do a little bit of digging to figure out what was happening there, to get a clearer picture of how that was happening and what even the written comments looked like pre to post as well, if that was really changing a lot. So we've got a little bit more work to do on this, but it's really fascinating data, and it's kind of an interesting experiment in human behavior as well in group settings. For any behavior psychologists, sociologists out there, I'm sure it's going to be an interesting study. So we'll come back to you with more information as we work toward getting some sort of policy framework in place for how we do applications. But the preliminary analysis is the average of the panel on the whole is really not changing. I think the takeaway for developing. But it's something that I think we had hypothesized, as often reviewers get on the panel and cite their written comments in the system, because it's hard to, you've got 20 applications, it's hard to memorize or ad lib your comments. So you kind of need to go and read those comments. So usually we don't see a lot of score changes, which is turning out to be hard to do. So where we're going here is doing some additional analysis on the pre and post. We're also going to look at the scoring distribution. Another component of the change was reducing scoring range. We want to see how that impacted the distribution of scores on the whole. And we also didn't publish a threshold score for eligibility in either program. And it once was the case that in both programs you had to score 75 or higher to qualify. And we got rid of that. And one of the reasons we did that is we actually had a PhD student from IU have a chapter of their dissertation on our panels and our scoring, which was fascinating. It was really cool. And one of the things that she found was that when we published the threshold score, guess what? Everyone scored above a 75. And so nobody wants to see someone in the grocery store the next day and say, hey, I scored you a 60. You didn't want it to me. That's tough. And so of course people want to see all these great organizations get supported, and as do we. So we didn't publish that threshold score to try to create a more distributed review process where people could reflect, really use the criteria and provide some instruction. So, we're gonna be looking at that scoring distribution as well. And then like the end goal here is, application evaluation sort of methodology that we can apply across our programs. So I said I was gonna be brief. I wasn't very brief. Sorry. That is all I have. Happy to answer any questions or anyone.
Went to the dissertation debate.
I did.
Such a nerd. I love for a chapter of a dissertation.
And I would say just,
Mandy is the PhD student, and who graduated, with her PhD in cultural affairs from the O'Neill School of Management. So big thanks to Mandy for
Eric, was
then I
that
gotta give a shout out to yeah, go
a
ahead.
really
Laura.
quick question? Was her name Jin AI? Jin I?
No, Min is her first name, Jungmin Lee.
Okay, different. I worked with a young woman who was also really interested in quantifying philanthropy. I think I might even have had her get in touch with you because I thought what you have been doing here has been so amazing. And that young woman just got a job at Rutgers. I just thought but different.
Phenomenal. And I do remember her, Lori, and we had a meeting, we did chat, and she was doing phenomenal work on looking at a lot of data and really incredible stuff on philanthropy.
Yeah. Something good to be aware of is that there's sort of emerging scholarship on these kinds of quantitative approaches. Useful to know.
I'll ask Min, if she sent me the chapter that's specific to so for anyone who's interested in reading some dissertation, I know Scott will be first in line. Dissertation. I'm happy to send that around to everyone.
Good. Thank you very much, Eric. Lori, appreciate your question as well. We are going to go to a 10-minute break, which I think will have us back here at 10:25 local. So 10:25 locals. And we'll start up. Thank you. thank you. Appreciate everyone's engagement through the first part of our meeting. And we're going to continue with Eric. Eric.
Oh. Hey. America 250. So I'm going to talk through the America 250 program. Just as a reminder, this is a new program that is offered through the National Endowment for the Arts that came alongside our partnership agreement this year that is celebrating the semi-centennial of America. So the ISC will be opening up a project grant that for projects that do one or multiple of these three things. One is honor the contribution and impact of people and places on American history, pause and reflect on our nation's past, and look ahead to future generations. And the goal of this program is to celebrate and honor American history. And a lot of the language that you'll see in this program framework is connected directly to the language that is used at the federal America 250 Commission that has been in place for a number of years, actually, now leading up to this year, 2026. So some of the outcomes we're looking for from this project grant program is that we are celebrating, learn, and reflect on American history through the arts, in that Indiana arts providers have expanded opportunities to enhance the quality of life in the campus, and that is the strategic framework connection here. The eligibility for this program is 501c3 nonprofit organizations, schools, and units of local government. Because the funding for this comes from the federal government, the eligibility is a little bit more restrictive than what you'd see in the project support program, which allows for some state visits and other things. So as a federally funded program, that's a little bit more in line with operating support. And then the selection criteria that the project proposals will be evaluated by as follows: the artistic excellence and artistic merit defined by the IAC as artistic quality. Those artistic excellence, artistic merit, those are National Endowment for the Arts required criteria. When you use funding from the NEA and grant programs, you must have those criteria as a piece of that. And that terminology is actually in the NEA's enabling legislation. Well, one of the things that the NEA does with those two terms is that they define them differently depending on the program. And so we also do the same and help define what those terms mean for the purposes of the program. Additionally, the connection to American history and the 250th anniversary of independence. And then lastly, the feasibility to get the project on the grant period. So here are some of the logistics of the program. Looking to launch this application in November, and we'll close it in December. It'll be a fairly short open window. And funding decisions we'd like to get out the door by February. And the reason for this timeline is that we can get people the money and get them moving to have programming available sort of through the spring and summer of 2026. That's what's going to naturally align with organizations that are doing the bulk of their America 250 programming that would maybe be happening regardless of our support. So we want to try to make sure we're aligning that with the calendar year of 2026. And so the grant period will run March 26th to the end of the year. And people can request up to $5,000. There's a total of $60,000 available in the program. $25,000 is directly federal funds from the NEA. $25,000 is our state match. And then we added another $10,000 on top of that. And so with that, we expect about 12 grantees to be in the program. You can see there the funding sources are the three that I just mentioned. I will note that this is a one-time program offering. As Maya mentioned earlier, this isn't something that's going to continue. And so this will just sort of be a point-in-time program. And once it's done, it'll just be to align with the summer's activities mainly, and that will be that. So there won't be a robust evaluation or additional things that come alongside this outside of the standard required reporting. The review process is an internal selection committee with the ISC staff. A couple of reasons for that. One, with the condensed timeline, we need to move quickly to get this launched and out the door by the new year so that people can get their programming in line with when a lot of the celebrations will be happening. Additionally, as a one-time program, it's not something that we're going to continue doing. So trying to do things as efficient and low burden on staff as possible. We've got a lot of programs launching this fall, so I'm trying to make sure that any capacity standpoint, manage this, and then additionally trying to make sure we've got alignment with the NEA and federal efforts in the space, which are a little bit more. Other notes, this is not connected or related to the Garden of Heroes in any way. That's a completely separate federal initiative. You may have heard about that. This is not tied to that. Projects do not need to be reflective of what's happening there. That is completely distinct. The Garden of Heroes is an
initiative of the current administration to construct a sculpture garden reflecting of individuals who have made significant contributions to this nation. And the VA is actually administering a program alongside the Garden of Heroes that is actually an opportunity for applicants to apply for funds to help tell the story of one of the Garden of Heroes recipients. As far as I know, the Garden of Heroes itself, the selection of artists, sculptors to actually do the sculptures is being administered by the National Endowment for the Humanities. The NEA is actually not joining at the moment. The NEA is only providing the Garden of Heroes opportunity for projects that want to celebrate an individual being highlighted in the Garden of Heroes. As far as I know, last I heard, a location had not been determined for where this Garden of Heroes is located. So don't have any information for that. I believe the NEA is to maybe have made determinations of the selected artists here fairly shortly. It's a pretty tight timeline, so that's all I can share about that. Oh, that's all I know about that.
So previously.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Table setting.
Yeah, table setting for Garden of Heroes, yes.
Thank you. Yep. So this is not that. This is just private granting. The topics can range. It doesn't have to be specific to one of those individuals that's in the Garden of Heroes. The language, as I mentioned here, very closely mirrors the America 250 Commission framing of how they're approaching celebrating this milestone. And this will be offered directly through the IAC. There is a state specific America 250 Commission. This is not offered through them or in partnership with them. This is an Indiana Arts Commission grant program. Some other states have very active and robust 250 commissions that are doing public art and are doing some other additional investments in the space. And so you may see that from some other Midwest states, particularly Ohio. But this is not going to be in partnership with them. And certainly if there's something with to open up down the line that would make sense, would certainly be open to that conversation. But at the moment, that commission body is not really publicly announced a lot of what's going on there that we're aware of. So that is what I have on America 250. So this, happy to answer any questions on the program frame, what's going on. Otherwise, this is an action item.
I'd also add, this was reviewed by the Program Grants and Services Committee, who recommends it to the commission as well. So questions at all for Eric? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the framework? A second? Great, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Austin, you want roll call?
I'm happy to do so. Raina.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Jake.
Aye.
Renee.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Azizi.
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Kelsey.
Aye.
That is all the votes and everyone is in favor.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. Let's next go to creative convergence. And
so this is going to be our fourth convergence. So I've kind of hit the ground running as we'll start planning for this cohort. So just to give you a little bit of a summary and overview, this is a statewide initiative supporting arts-based planning and development specifically for communities who are ready to take the next step in arts and community. Arts and cultural planning. This is a partnership with Ball State's Indiana Communities Institute. And so far, we've had 26 projects funded across 3 cohorts in the pilot and community. 2 cohorts, one in spring and fall of 24. All of those projects have been completed to date. And some of the impacts highlights here. 9 projects focused on public arts, so we know exhibits, fences, and more. 3 new or strengthened arts organizations. So, for example, Rockport, Dillsboro, Spencer opted arts councils or strengthened their arts councils. Mount Air transitioned from every county funded to Creative Convergence. So that's where we're seeing that this program becoming a bridge to other programming and other funding. And this Dillsboro I mentioned, Kendallville and Rockport, they all became APS grantees after their participation. So I just wanted to highlight the City of Lebanon. They are past participants and will actually be featured in this cohort as on the panel as a past participant. So they did what's called the Lebanon Story Booth. And this was a transformation of an old telephone booth into an interactive story station. So friends were invited to share their personal stories. And it was an interesting way to connect generations. So that was pretty impactful for that community. This platform amplifies voices, celebrating diverse cultural environment. So we've seen some really cool stories come out of that, and they'll be presenting, like I said, at this cohort in November. So the framework for this particular workshop, the purpose, of course, is empowering Indiana communities to embed arts and creativity into local planning, development, and engagement strategies. This workshop will be November 4th through 5th in Fishers. It's a 3 2-day in-person training and invites a team of 3 to 4 people to participate. We provide them for travel. And at the end of the training, they will be eligible for a county action grant up to $5,000. So something that we are offering this year is an optional partnership with Creating Places. This is a crowd granting campaign through Patronicity in partnership with IHCBA. So at the end of this program, they'll be offered that partnership and be able to make their impact a little more if they choose to do a campaign. Of course, they'll also receive ongoing coaching, mentorship from IAC and NC. As I mentioned, these teams will be 3 to 4 members, local government, economic development representative, an arts or civic organization leader, a local artist or creative practitioner. Selection priorities for this program: team cohesion and continuity is a big one. We want to see that they are ready to hit the ground running and that they have a plan for succession should someone drop off the team. Inclusive community engagement, how they're engaging the community and what the benefit is for the community. And then geographic diversity across Indiana. This is a little bit of a shift from the last cohort, which was focused on rural communities, but since we have every county funded coming online next year, it's a little bit of a shift from that focus. Program goals: build cross-sector collaboration. So really just having all those members from the different parts of the community come together and collaborate. Advance arts as an infrastructure for community vitality, and then equip teams to sustain some and do better. So I can mention just a couple of updates from the last time we ran this program. The grant amount is adjusted to $5,000 from $10,000 previously to encourage that participation in Creating Places. And then the geographic prioritization I mentioned has shifted from underinvested counties to a broader emphasis on statewide. Any questions on?
This is an action item.
It is an action item, so thank you very much. Ian is clearly off to an important start, so thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the framework as outlined?
So moved.
Thank you, Jay. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Daniel. All in favor, oh, excuse me, call the roll. You're trying.
This is my one job.
Yeah.
Rena,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Renee,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Azizi,
Aye.
Thad,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Kelsey.
Aye.
That is everyone, and the motion is passed.
Thank you, Alderman. Okay, thanks again, Ann. We're gonna move to artist services update and Jordan.
So just a quick disclaimer that the items on your agenda are moved around a little bit just in order of program relevance and how they relate to one another. But we'll start with the Creative League series. So just a quick overall recap of the thing I'll talk about is that these programs are results of our artist needs assessment conducted back in FY24, where we conducted listening sessions and subsequent surveys, where we kind of identify the themes and needs of artists across the state. And so the Creative League series is our most recent pilot program, where the program goal is to support established creative entrepreneurs in accomplishing financial and marketing goals for the artistic practice, kind of deepening their business strategy to kind of foster momentum in their creative business. And so the intended outcomes are to meet some of those needs, meaning indirectly supporting networks and connections and offering marketing, financial support and education, and then as well as, again, using that application of business planning and also our strategic framework for successful careers in the state. And so the next slide is going to show you kind of how this relates to the ORMRENT Creative Entrepreneur Accelerator. And so that this is kind of more of a natural next step if people participated in that program or are just more established in their endeavors and kind of want to go further in their careers. 7 out of the 12 cohort members are alum of the ORMRENT program. But this list is very small, but this is our 12 members of the cohort, ranging from Central Indiana, North and South. This is a screenshot from the virtual workshop, first workshop series, and kind of everybody introducing themselves. I will note, I do have on one of our creative entrepreneurs, good, it's a leather bag. Tracy James is of Julian James Bespoke Leather Goods. And so he's actually accessing both local and state support, where he just got to open a storefront in the Studs building with Startup 317 from the Department of Metropolitan. So he's off to a great start. All of this kind of happened at once for him, so he's really excited. But the 4 workshops, what do they focus on? So what are your goals? Okay, we had financial goals and marketing goals. So what are they? What are they specifically to your business? Are they reasonable? Technical feasibility of those goals? Forecast numbers, they matter. What does your budget look like? What is the forecast of your numbers? And then launching those goals. So we completed those workshops and they'll be moving on to some check-ins. But these screenshots kind of show you them deepening the value of their pricing strategies, whether it be services and or goods. What is the value? So what are your costs for kind of doing either your services good, and then how can you kind of price out your time and labor for that? And then, so this is another screenshot of them actually kind of all working together on their goals and sharing it. Everybody had to be very vulnerable. Everybody could see each other's numbers. And so it was kind of a great learning experience from one another as well. What's next? So in about a week, we'll do some check-ins, make sure that everybody's on track for their goals, and then there'll be one final check-in to December 15th. They'll also be receiving an honorarium payment of $1,000. It's kind of different from our ORMRENT program, but that $1,000 to those who are supporting the goals that they've identified. And the league continues. We want them to keep going. We want them to kind of propel them forward into their creative endeavors. Any questions on the creative lead before I move to our next program? Okay. So vision and venture framework, this is the next slide, but I'll get through the full thing. Programs goals, so again, bookends to on-ramp. So this is a more foundational step for our creative entrepreneurs who want less than 1 year of business experience, kind of giving a foundation to cover startup tasks for a creative business on one solid vision. And so if artists are more hobby in nature, we're kind of doing this as a mindfulness practice. Do you have a vision for an actual profitable business? And so let's help you create that vision and get some kind of business components in order. The cohort maximum will be 15 artists. Application will open in December. We'll have a webinar to kind of go over the application components on December 8th. And then cohort selection, those individuals will be notified a week of January 26th. So this is kind of an outline of how 3 programs kind of relate to one another. Vision and venture, again, one solid business idea for artists with less than 1 year of business experience. They can choose to move into on-ramp, where we're kind of focusing more on a portfolio career for artists to kind of pursue multiple streams of income, and then create a movie series where we're kind of giving them momentum to already established businesses. And so we would love for individuals to kind of go through this full series of programs, but also we're more segmented where people can plug in where they most see fit. On-ramp, as it stood, everybody was applying to on-ramp, no matter their experience, no matter their ideas. And so while it was great in nature, you had a lot of different people all over the place. And so it was a bit challenging, good challenge to have, but challenging to kind of meet everybody's needs and stay focused as facilitators and program managers. And so we're kind of giving people an option to plug in where they fit here. Program partners, Minerva Financial Arts is Dr. Elaine Grover-Luttrell out of Ohio. And then we have our entrepreneurial ecosystem navigator, Hannah's here. She's gonna partner with us, and she's actually an on-ramp alum as well. So we're excited to partner with these folks, individuals and agencies as well. Workshops, so vision sharing. What is the vision? What is the plain vision? Tell us what it is. They'll kind of outline that in their application to participate, but we want to hear them vocalize it to their cohort members. How do you find customers for that vision? How do we kind of get it off the ground to get it going with compliance first and foremost, and then planning costs. Kind of mirroring creatively, but kind of more in the formation. What is it first? Tracking actuals and then keep it going. And so we're excited to get this started in the spring of next year. I'm a little early, but it's because we've got more stuff to plan. So it's not the way so we can move. And then yes, this is a framework request for approval. And we're asking for your acceptance, and then also we'll kind of present more subsequent guidelines in December, and then kind of share marketing materials on how you can support us then as well. But yes, this is an action item.
Excellent, great. Thank you, Jordan. Any questions for Jordan? Okay, good. Do we have a motion to approve the framework?
Absolutely, I so move.
Thank you, Scott. A second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Eric.
Austin.
Eric, Austin.
I can be honest.
Austin, let's call it Austin.
All right, Raina.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Greg.
Aye.
Daniel.
Aye.
Jake. Renee.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Azizi.
Aye.
Chad.
Aye.
Lori. Kelsey.
Aye.
That is everybody, and everybody is in favor.
Good, great.
Thank you so much. I have 2 more programs for you.
Please.
On-ramp evaluations. So again, while we're piloting these programs for our business development, we have off on-ramp. But the 2024 cohort, their final report is due in a couple days. Getting emails, but it's kind of good. But we have, while we paused it, we have evaluated the program in its totality through all 6 cohorts. The number of individuals who have participated in all 6, as well as 5 local cohorts, for a number of 254. And with a number of responses received with valid email addresses, we received about a 62% response rate. Eric, Britt, and I have been able to work with the American Resources Company out of Ohio. They provided us a draft of the report where they kind of evaluated some data that we provided them out of assessments that we get from individuals at RSMP, acceptance into the cohort, post-workshop, as well as post-fellowship. So they also developed and disseminated a alumni survey. And so we were happy to see that response rate. We were looking for September 8th, but there's lots going on, so we're pushed out a little bit. But the draft that we've received is beautiful. We're working on a executive summary, text for support, and kind of some number overviews to kind of drive home how other agencies and other agencies can support us in this endeavor. And so kind of developing a share of those findings as well. We'll have more there soon. And let me, one more thing on the evaluation. We also have lots of stories. And so Pattern Magazine has done a couple of stories in the past on our alumni. They've reached out again to kind of share out the accelerator success. Not just our program, but accelerators are all over the state. So we're kind of first on the trend of accelerators. And so we're glad to be a part of people who are doing that work across the state. Okay, any questions on the evaluation? Okay. So work in progress exchange labs, a pilot of the pilots. The program goes, so again, this was to convene artists across the state in 5 areas on a monthly basis to kind of discuss their projects, creative projects and creative process and how they can collaborate, provide insights to one another. These are also facilitated by local arts agencies, leaders, what have you across the state. And so again, we're kind of meeting those needs that we've assessed in our artist needs assessment, as well as some other things from our strategic framework. In the spring, we funded a total of 12 artist projects, ranging from iron hole covers in Muncie, and then also that silver platter for glasses out of Greencastle. So we're excited to see those projects. Their applications, their report will be due in about November. And so we're about to open a fall cycle that will open in about a week or two in September 17th. For the labs, again, when the labs are not able to meet because of low registration, we are offering one-on-ones with either the facilitator or myself. That's been great to kind of get into our pipeline of career coaching, but also as well as kind of making them aware of other programs that are already in play or that will be coming in the near future. And so again, for the actual micro grant eligibility, they have to attend at least one lab. And so we're excited to see the numbers kind of increase, hopefully, with this next application, especially with both North and Central being on board this cycle as they were not in the previous cycle. So we're excited to get that underway. That is it on artist service update. Any questions on work in progress of standards? Great, thank you.
Thanks very much, Jordan. Let's move to coming to practice. Eric.
Well, fair, yeah, thanks for coming in. I'll be really brief. 2 things I'll mention on coming attractions. One is, one of the things you'll continue to see more of is service delivery, webinars, trainings. There are a couple of things coming up we're really excited about. One is we'll be at the Accelerate Indiana Municipalities Conference here in October. I'm really excited that one of the presentations actually with Commissioner Martinez, highlighting some of the great work in Columbus. And we'll also be presenting with Ball State and Patronage City to talk to the municipalities about how they can stand up some low budget, easy, creative placemaking oriented projects. And so excited to be there and to go on to Valparaiso in a couple of weeks to talk with the Valpo Creative Council and some of the work they're doing there. We're involved in the Creative Economy Summit that's happening in October, also in Indy. So excited to sort of get out there and share some of the programs that are open. We've got a ton of programs opening this fall. So also just give a shout out the whole team, because every time we've got a new program, we've got a pilot or something first time, that is all new guidelines, all new website, all new program payment processes. Like this is it's a major lift whenever we do new things as a state agency, and we're also doing them all at the same time. So just, yeah, a major shout out to the whole team for all their work to get these things going. So really excited to see what's coming there. And then the last thing I'll mention on Coming Attractions is either in December or March, you'll hear a little bit more about the Poetry Out Loud program. This is a piece of one of the earmarked sections of our National Endowment for the Arts funding. It's Poetry Out Loud. There's a poetry recitation competition for high schoolers that a state champion is awarded in usually it's March. And that happens at the Historical Society, and then that participant goes on to DC to participate in the national competition. And that is run through a partnership with Indiana Humanities. And so somebody from Indiana Humanities, probably Megan Pellegrin, who's their director of programs, will come to one of the TBNs and share a little bit more about what goes into that program and how they do the outreach and what participation looks like, so you can get a little bit more insight into what POL is and how it operates. And so it's got a little bit of an adjusted timeline this year, but as we get some of those details, you'll hear more about that. So that's all from me on.
Yeah, you mentioned that the Creative Economy Summit would be in Indianapolis. It's going to be in Fishers.
Yeah, thank you. Fishers. Yes, it'll be in Fishers, October
14th and 15th.
and 15th. Yes. Yep. It'll be great. Yeah, good. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Always good to hear about coming attractions, some really neat stuff that's coming along. So appreciate that. Let's go to the Regional Arts Partnership. Kayla.
Yeah, thank you. So as partners, we're in the process of reviewing the FY26 AOS Next Steps form, sending lots of reminders. As these are due next Wednesday. And then we're just also helping promote all of the great opportunities that we heard about, especially the fall arts project support deadline, with that being kind of hot heavy this month, it goes in. And I think as Eric has previously mentioned, so the IAC has had conversation with all of the regional partners regarding the scope of our work and taking a larger role in service delivery. And we're looking forward to engaging with our communities, regions in this way in the coming months. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank you all for making a trip to South Bend. I mean, between yesterday in our offices and at the museum, and this morning, we've really enjoyed having you here. As Rose noted, I'd encourage you to check out the library. It's really cool. And we'd also love to have you up to our offices. So we're just on the 3rd floor of this building. We have tons of food left over from that. So please come help us. If you just go right out here to the elevators on the left, we're up on the 3rd floor. So we'd love to
Stay
have
no
you.
more.
Yeah,
Thank you,
great
Karen.
options. Yes. So thank you so much.
Thanks very much. What you hosted for us across the street last night was wonderful. Yeah. So what a nice way to welcome everyone. So much appreciated.
Yeah,
any questions for Taylor? Okay, great. Thanks for being here. We're glad to be here, and I think we're coming back every year. All right, we will go to an update from Monica.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about a little less about what's going on with Vertical at the moment, and a little bit more about what's going on with Ready. I'll go back to the Commerce Vertical for a second. Just as a quick reminder, in a previous episode, I discussed the fact that state government is being reorganized. All state agencies are within one of 8 verticals. We are now in the Commerce Vertical with economic development, tourism, workforce development, sports, state fair. Sorry. Workforce development, yes, yeah. So, and each vertical is headed by a secretary. Secretary David Adams is the head of the Commerce Vertical. We have been working as a collection of agencies within this new structure, again, since early in the year. Still working together, figuring out kind of how best to optimize the governor's vision related to a vertical reporting structure and how that works. So more to come. Have had a great result of the restructuring is a even closer relationship with economic development. We were already engaged via Ready, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that work looks like in a minute, but even more direct connection with economic development. They're much more aware of the work that they're doing. I know Jordan and Eric are gonna be meeting with the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship here shortly. They're also within our verticals, so just more conversations. We are closely aligned with tourism. It's something that we have not called out previously, but I need to do that now. We have Andre and Stephanie and the ops team have taken on the responsibility for providing business services for the state tourism office. And that's a big deal for us. And so that's gonna be additional work for Andre and his team. But we want to be team players within the vertical. Tourism needed some assistance. We're able to provide it. So that's just one way that we are working together with the team. So, but we have not publicly given a shout out to Andre and his team for that work and we're just now just got the agreement inked. So the work will actually begin here in the next little bit. All we're handling is sort of the backside business functions, paying vouchers, doing all this. I say all, it's a lot, but won't be much you won't see any result of that partnership publicly, unlikely, but again, a lot of back end work will need to happen to make this.
Water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just watch the duck, don't pay attention to me. So, right. Yes.
We talking about the Office of Innovation, the entrepreneurship.
Sure.
How was that created with new legislation?
Yes, yeah. So the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, or maybe it's, I can't remember which one comes first. Anyway, that office was part of Secretary Adams's agenda related to sort of retooling of economic development and commerce in the state. And that new office was legislatively enacted by the General Assembly in this past session. That office has a charge of being at the moment, from my understanding, is sort of a conduit to sort of pulling together all the work that the state does in various ways around entrepreneurship and innovation. Obviously, you just heard Jordan talk expansively about all the work that we've been doing for a long time in that space. We are excited for the opportunity to hopefully bring a little bit more on the spotlight of the work we're doing through this new office. They did establish the office. Their budget is modest. So it feels like, at least early on, the mandate from them will be more of a connector and again, making sure that all those various parts of state government that really help in this space are connected. So, but more to come on that very early on in that relationship. So we expect to learn more after learning Brian Shute, who's the director of that new office. Ready? Okay. So in a previous episode, or in several episodes, I talked about the Living Endowment's involvement in the Ready program and our involvement with this. But just as a reminder, back in 2024, the endowment awarded $65 million in funding to IEDC to be distributed through the Ready program. And I had to look this acronym up because I couldn't remember it. The Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative, which has been a statewide initiative that now has 2 iterations through Indiana Economic Development Corporation. That's essentially regional investment in economic development across the state. There are 15 regions across the state, not too dissimilar to our regional arts partnership and how it's structured. Most of the projects that have been funded via Ready to this point have been infrastructure, and there have been a couple of arts projects. The Gas City Music Center up in Gas City was funded in part through Ready, but they have primarily concerned themselves with what we call traditional economic development kinds of investments and so forth. Back in 2024, through a request via IEDC, the endowment has committed the $65 million. And we are part of that. The goal of the investment is to catalyze regionally based arts and culture initiatives to bring about transformational change across the state. And we've been working with them since 2024 and helping that. Next slide. I hope that's the next slide. Yes. So what's currently happening? I know I've been up several times kind of talking about things. So here's what's going on at the moment. Currently, there are the 15 regions. We provided some planning funds for them back at the end of last calendar year to each do a regional arts and culture plan. And you will see on the right-hand side, the cover of the North Central Indiana Regional Planning Council's Arts and Culture Plan. That region is the Peru area of Indiana, a little north of here, includes Kokomo and those areas of the state. That is their plan. Those plans are slowly coming online. What I'm doing right now is reviewing a lot of drafts and getting a lot of firm feedback back to the consulting teams who are working with these regions to get these plans in place. Several of those consulting teams are Indiana-based. A few of them are nationally based. It's been a really interesting mix. Each region could select their own consulting team from a list of consultants that move what we got ready folks. There are gonna be 15 plans. So what next, right? So what's gonna happen is all the regions are gonna get together. There will be some sharing amongst each region about common themes that they saw in their region, what that experience has been like for them. I will say that just at the very tip of the learning from this regional planning process, it has been eye-opening for these economic development entities who in many cases had very little connection with arts and culture in the regions to have a whole new window of what's happened in the region and the assets that are available to them. And so that in and of itself, if nothing else were to happen, that's a really strong and powerful impact. And so that's a really important learning that's already occurred. And I need to give a shout out to Kayla and Claire. A lot of our regional arts partners have been involved in this process, helping guide the regional economic development folks as well as the consultants to help tell them who the arts and culture providers are in the region, the assets, the events, the people, all the things. So partners have played a role. Some partners have been very actively engaged. Some have merely served as a resource and sort of a check on that planning process. So I need to give a shout out to the partners here. What's going to happen? Talked a little bit about how the regions are going to share out amongst each other, but I mentioned $65 million and I haven't brought that number up again, but that number actually plays a role in what's next. After all the planning processes are done, there will be an opportunity to apply for about $60 million in funding for transformational arts and culture projects. How we come into play in that process is, obviously, I've been working with regions since last year on sort of the planning process and what's happening, but the IEC is now much more involved than we were last time I talked to you about this process. Through some strategic arm twisting on my part, the Ops and Grants team has agreed to allow the IEC Grants portal to be the intake mechanism for these project proposals, which is a shift from what had been previously conditioned. So in other words, we're going to be using our founded grants platform for grants or proposals to be submitted. And we will have an opportunity and a window in to all these project proposals, which is really exciting for us. That's a big deal. It'll be a big deal for the grants team. We do have some help. IEDC is helping fund some technical assistance to help make sure that we're not just totally overloaded with all this work. We are working with another consulting team that's actually putting together the evaluation rubric as well as the application questions, and then helping socialize, as they say, the opportunity around the state. So we are working with an external consultant on some of the work, but it is going to be a work for the grants team and the ops team. We appreciate it. I want to make it clear that those proposals will not be vetted. I will have a role in the review process, but these will not come to the IEC, to you guys, to this body for approval. IEC still has the final funding determination. There will be a review team. I'll be a part of it. There'll be IEC folks plus some external reviewers with all these projects. But at the end of the day, we're going to have two really important things. First, a set of 15 regional arts and culture plans we've never had in the state for us to digest and all of this. And then second, we're going to have a window into, I can't even begin to project how many project proposals that we will get from across the state. That will be from folks we know, but then some, for some folks that we don't. And so it will give us an understanding again around what potential there might be, what opportunities there might be, for us to deepen our work. Yes, yes, absolutely. So we will have that. So, so that's a little bit of more, actually probably a little more than a little bit more about what's going on, with Ready. Any questions I can answer right now? It's a lot. And I'm going to, and I should have done this for this meeting. I will ask Jim Rollison, who's my counterpart over at IEDC, who runs the Ready program, to come in December, I think. And give you a chance to hear from him directly, kind of about how things are going and what the work looks like. All right.
What is the timeline?
Great. And yeah, so what comes next? Here's how you know that we don't have as much involvement as I might like to have in some of these things. We don't yet have a date to provide as to when project proposals will be open. So don't know that yet. What I'm learning is that in the economic development world, you can just talk about quarters and just kind of leave it at that, right? So what is Q4, we anticipate the opportunity for folks to submit project proposals, but I don't have a firm. And that's been one of the interesting challenges in working in the economic development space. As you can see from our framework presentations and so forth, we sort of button up our timelines and dates, so kind of a little bit of the game. And it works a little bit different on this side, other side of the street. But again, can't say more about what great partners can test to. But yeah, so I can't answer that. But at some point, I will make sure that information is known to all. This will be a public process. In other words, folks, it was kind of a closed process previously. We tried a funding round last summer and determined weren't quite ready for that. So that was more of a closed system. This will be a much more open system. So there will be wide knowledge and information around the opportunity. But they will need to be tied back to the Ocean Coastal Plan, which is why this planning process is working.
Just on.
Yeah.
Q4 is the last quarter.
That's what we're thinking. That's what we're doing. Well, that's what they're telling me. So I think that's what, yeah. And my sense is that we want to stick to that. We hope to have something like that. But yeah, we're at the moment, actually, what we're waiting for is to get the rubric and so forth ready before we start to talk about. Anything else on Ready?
No, I just compliment you on making progress that you have, really getting a structure together and focus plans and that process underway. It's awesome.
It's been pretty amazing to see some of the things that or get some of the planning processes that are happening. And it's going to be really exciting to see. It's exciting to see these regions excited. In fact, I put up this particular plan because they're so excited about their plan. They're going to do a big launch event for their plan in October that they're inviting the entire region to come to celebrate the completion of this plan and for us to come together and talk about what might be next. So, yeah, and again, these are folks that would not have been working in this space previously. So it's great.
Good.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Maya. Much appreciated. A lot of good work. There were no consent agenda items moved, so we can pass that item. We'll go to old and new business. I know we have one item, Andre.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the opportunity for this, share this news of celebration. As Maya mentioned yesterday at the reception, her 10th year anniversary is coming at the end of the month on September 28th. So I just wanted to take a moment to publicly recognize the work, the dedication, and the leadership of Maya and our board staff members and the commissioners.
I know, John, it's so funny. Nothing has changed. Exactly, everything's exactly the same.
All right. Thank you, Andre. We appreciate you bringing that forward. Any other old or new business? Anyone from Zoom? Okay, good.
Good job, Dave.
Thank you. So, okay, so we're through that. Yeah, we're gonna go to adjourn. This is my thing.
I know.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve adjourning the meeting.
I'll move to
Jake?
adjourn.
A second. Daniel. This does not need a roll call,
Yeah, it
and
does
so
not.
we can stand adjourned.
We'll see you in December in Indianapolis.
Yes. I want to thank the staff, especially for all the great work. Should have mentioned this before we adjourned, but the hours or whatever we call those, having
Yes.
20 different groups come in to talk about working with the IAC, I think is amazing. So it showed a lot of interest, and really appreciate everyone who's involved. I think that happened.
But I was gonna say, they couldn't even eat their lunches, like people at our door a half hour before they were supposed to be there, it felt so bad.
Even better, but appreciate that. So a lot of good work, in our organization.
You also want to recognize, because there's a shift in the name for that from office hours to community conversation hours. That may or may not, we don't know the pre and post changes, but want to recognize Austin for bringing that up forward. That allows the opportunity for people to not feel like they're going to detention to the principal's office.
So the new name will be, we think.
Community conversation hours.
Something like that, conversation hours.
We're working on it. Just want to recognize Austin who brought that up.
My suggestion was office hours, so clearly that was wrong.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm safe for both.
So anybody wants to go up and see?
Yes,
Let's
we would
do
love that, yes.